Hey guys, Amanda here. So, thanks for tuning in. First off, these few last videos that I've been doing are for a weekly class that I teach, and so I wanted to document it for them and for you guys. I'm starting with this pattern called Onamato. I think it's Onamato. It's like tomato, but mixed up. So anyways, you start off by creating some really soft S shapes and then aura them and then fill them with some orbs and color in between those orbs. I kind of just squish the orbs in between those two lines and let them lay on top of each other, or they can be sort of away from each other as well. Whatever your comfort level is and whatever your pen draws is totally fine. So speeding up the process just a little bit, I'm going to continue with those first lines that I created and start creating more. This time I'm going to fill in that space with a little orb and then color around it. So that way you can kind of see there are different ways of drawing this pattern. You can fill it with a bunch of tiny orbs or bigger orbs, or just color it in black. Whatever you choose to do is totally up to you. Going on to the last one, that soft S, and then laying in those orbs just kind of right next to each other, and then again filling the spaces with orbs again and coloring in between them. Now moving on to the way that I usually draw it is I create a sharper S shape and then aura it, creating sort of a ribbon look. And then the way that I do it is I sort of squish those orbs in next to each other. Sometimes they look like they're laying one on top of the other, and you can intensify this look by shading. When I draw this pattern, usually I leave those ribbon shapes empty and then just go to town with my shading. For this video, I wanted to also show you that you can do some other things with it as well. That's just the way that I prefer to draw it. So continuing with my orbs, kind of squishing them in there. As you can see, they're not perfectly symmetrical. They're not perfect circles by any means. So when we tangle, what we're doing is we're creating orbs. I don't ever go out trying to create circles. So now I'm going to come in through those ribbon shapes and create another little section of it. Then I'm going to fill the top section with more orbs. So this is yet another way to draw this pattern. Just squishing them in next to each other and then filling in between them black. You can also leave where I'm coloring in black, you can leave it white, and then when you shade, you can shade it with pencil or pen or whatever you're going to shade with. So now I'm going to shade the first one by giving some little smiley faces without the eyes. So I guess just little smileys. And the reason I do that is so that it gives me just enough graphite to work with. If this was a larger surface, I would give it the smiley and then maybe a little bit of shading on the top as well, kind of in the same shape but opposite. So just by adding graphite there, I'm laying those ribbon shapes on top of my orbs by causing kind of a shadow over the top of them. And then I'm going to go through and I am going to do little tiny circles with my blender. And since this is such a small area, I'm actually just blending all the graphite inside the entire orb. Again, if this was a larger section, I would leave that white portion out that I am erasing with my eraser. So this is a tiny, tiny eraser that I can kind of erase and leave a little bit of it white, because as you can see, whenever we shade the entire thing, it kind of takes away from the three-dimensional look that we're going for. So I just sort of went through and re-highlighted with my eraser, and then using what I had left over on my blending stump, I went through and darkened up that bottom portion one more time. Now I'm going to shade this one for you. I am going to shade this one just a little bit differently so you can get an idea that not everything has to be shaded exactly the same. Laying down that smiley as if those orbs were laying over top one another is what I'm doing this time. So essentially doing the same thing as we did with the first one, but now I'm going through and darkening that one side instead of the bottom portion. The other thing too is to notice that throughout the tangle I am kind of keeping the shadow to the same side throughout the whole thing. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to add a highlight with my eraser right next to that dark portion. And that just makes them look like they're laying on top of each other. There are numerous ways to shade one pattern, so play with your graphite and your blending stump and see what you can figure out for yourself as well. I'm darkening up around these orbs just so that you guys can see them a little bit better. It kind of gives it a little bit more drama with this gray pen. This is probably one of my very favorite pens. Now just going through and re-highlighting those eraser points. And that's it. Have fun with it, guys. Thanks for watching.